Show your move. Good news, everyone. The Gilio when you see aliens have legs.
Welcome to 20th Century Boy. My name is Choiry Mike, and this is the inside of my mind. Welcome, everybody, to 20th Century Boy. First of all, Choiry Mike, as you know, long-term listeners of the show, every week we do a new name. Generally, it's themed to RM because my real name is Radio Mike. This week decided to do Choiry Mike because of other reasons, which I will explain on the podcast. But second of all, last week's episode I feel really bad about because I was really sick and really depressed, and I feel like it was an average ep. Maybe it was fine for you guys, but for me, I'm like, could have done a better ep. But I'm just so people know, I'm feeling much better in terms of my physical and mental health. So I'm doing pretty good, which is awesome. So appreciate you guys sticking with the pod. It is still my favorite thing that I do every week. I've been really excited to record this one because heaps has happened in the past week. And so I did say the podcast might move to Thursdays. Look, at the moment, Wednesdays might be okay. Sometimes it just might have to be a Thursday just because of how busy I am. I apologize in advance for that. I know a lot of people look forward to this podcast and it's like an appointment thing because it drops at midnight on Wednesday morning. But I'm going to do my best anyway. I'm going to do my best to get it out on the Wednesdays. But I guess generally we record Hamish and Andy on Tuesday. So sometimes if we record that, I lose the whole Tuesday. And then I'm kind of cramming the pod in and I don't get to put as much time into it, which is why putting it on a Thursday kind of makes more sense. But this week it's Wednesday. We'll see how we go. Apologies for any confusion. Guys, main thing I want to say, as always at the top of the show, one, you can win the podcast. That offer still stands as always. Win the podcast by seeing me in the flesh while listening to the podcast, right? While listening to the podcast, do a 360 spin on the spot. Do a 360. We call it doing your 360 and see if I am in your vicinity. It is possible, but highly unlikely, right? If you see me in your vicinity while listening to the podcast, you won the podcast. Come up to me and let me know. Prove to me that you're listening to the podcast by putting your AirPods in my ears immediately. Say, I've won the podcast. You win the podcast ends forever because the podcast is a game and games end when someone wins. So there's the first thing. Comedy festival coming up. I will be in the Melbourne CBD a lot. So be listening to the podcast in the CBD. You really could win. As well as that, this podcast is 20th Century Boy, the conversations you want to be having with me, Radio Mike. It's a one-sided, 1 hour conversation, around about an hour conversation with me every week. The conversations you want to be having, but the conversations your friends and you don't have because you only talk about footy and other stuff with your friends. And then suddenly you listen to this podcast and you're like, yeah, these are the conversations I want to be having. Like I said, it's for about an hour each week, a one-sided conversation. But if you do want more conversations with me, jump onto the Patreon, patreon.com/Radio Mike for as little as $1 a month. You get the Overflow podcast, which is up right now, which is about 15 to 20 minutes extra stuff I would never share on the main podcast, such as the story of when I sharted on a date with a girl, right? Stuff like that, or behind the scenes stuff from my work, like behind the scenes of Hamish and Andy and other assorted behind the scenes stuff and other stories. I recently, my grandmother is now a great grandmother. That was the last week's episode, something like that. This week, actually I'll tease this week's Overflow soon. You also get the Pat and Mike podcast sporadically, where me and the editor and producer of this podcast, Pat, jump on and do a bunch of discussion often about this podcast, how we make it, more behind the scenes stuff. So lots of value over in the Patreon, as little as $1 a month. That's $12 a year, which is 3 coffees a year. If you would sit down with me 3 times a year and have coffee, don't lie, you so would. You definitely would. And I'd do it with you. Jump on the Patreon. You get a lot of value. If you like any of my stuff, just give $1 on the Patreon a month. It's not much. You get access to the full back catalogue of Overflows and Pat and Mikes. There's like 30 extra episodes there of really good content. So yeah, looking forward to growing the Patreon. Thank you to Radio Cold Koala you are the newest Patreon Cold Koala, I should say. Welcome to the Patreon family. Guys, I did want to start this week because when I talked about it on the overflow last week, but when I kind of am in a slump mentally, I kind of, for whatever reason, start hating all the content I create. And I'm like, maybe I should just be a producer, not make any content, and just be a producer and have a normal life. Because my life is far from normal. You know, I sometimes I text my friends, I'm like, hey, can you come on my podcast today? And they're like, oh, I'm at work. When? And I forget that other people have proper jobs. I don't. I somehow make enough money to pay my rent and pay my bills, you know, and have a little bit left over, but I don't have a normal job. Sometimes I'm in bed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Monday watching TV. Wouldn't have it any other way, right? But I went into this slump and I was like, oh, I'm going to just stop the pod. You know, the pod's over. I'm going to stop all my stuff. I'm just going to get a full-time job and quit. And I want to say, I've noticed now, and a lot of you guys, I didn't mention that to people, and I always get this way when I'm when I'm feeling down. I always do it. So it's like, I need to remember that. So whenever it happens again, I'm like, no, you felt this way last time this happened. Just wait it out. And now I feel great and can't wait to do content again. What I've realized is that I wanted to start the show with this, a gratitude to you guys, the listeners, because I've been kind of making content in inverted commas for like 5 years now professionally. And I've noticed that there's now just a back catalogue of mic content that people are accessing that I've forgotten ever existed. And so many instances this week kind of proved that to me. And it was really, it was just really interesting. I'll give you some examples. First of all, Radio Nate Van Hout. Welcome to the radio family. Your surname is very close to Van Houten, as in Milhouse, one of my favorite characters in The Simpsons. He sent me a message and he said, Mike babe, I mean King Mike, I was listening to your Luke and Lewis radio era stuff. Your Blink-182 cover of Rock Show was beautiful. And when I received that message, I was just so taken aback, not in a bad way, but just in the sense that, yeah, like years and years ago, this is like 2018, maybe 2019. For new listeners, the character, Radio Mike was born on the Luke and Lewis radio show about 4 or 5 years ago, back on Triple M Modern Digital. That's kind of where this all started a very long time ago. And there's a great episode of this podcast from last year called Who the Hell Coined the Name Radio Mike? Go and listen to that. That has the whole Radio Mike origin story. But I just realized, like, this was so long ago and people are just hearing it now. I've got a bit of the song here.
And when I feel like I'm the leading man, you all block me on Instagram. You guys are always hating, but I can't wait to get another chance to be on air again. You know I'm always waiting and filling in on the Luke and Lewis show. Mum said why, and I told her that I didn't know. Today it's the Lewis and the Radio Mike show. Everything's better when Mike's around. Turn your radio up and hear the sound of me filling in on the Luke and Lewis show.
So that's a song I did, on the Luke and Lewis show when I filled in for Luke because he had eye surgery. Gotta love that lyric in there. Everything's better when Mike's around. And I remember doing that years and years ago. I forgot all about it, to be honest. And, you know, there's a few cool harmonies and stuff in there. And to get this message 5 years later, so cool that just people are, I guess, always going to be discovering and hearing my stuff now. Like, there's a back catalogue of Mike content. And then got another message during the week that really threw me and confused me from Radio Lockie. Welcome to the radio family. He just sent me a message saying John, which really confused me. And then he said, hoping to be caught up on the podcast by the end of the year. And I was like, why did this guy just send me a message saying John? And then I realized, literally 2 years ago in season 2, I came up with this concept called the Phenomajon. And so I forgot all about the Phenomajon as well. I would like to keep this going like Radio Lockie did. So send in John if you have an Uncle John. And Lockie's just discovering that now, and 2 years later I'm getting John in my inbox and I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? And then it actually clicks and I figure it out. That was interesting. I was filling in this week on the Hamish and Andy show, last week rather, on the Hamish and Andy podcast. Filled in for Jack. Jack had a baby, so I filled in. Lots of fun. Had a great time. I'll get into more of that a little bit later, but I just wanted to continue because Radio Eat Your Veggies, I always wonder who listens to this podcast. There's a lot of regular contributors. We love you. There's a lot of lurking listeners who listen but never contribute. Would love for you to contribute. You can contribute with the show at any time, particularly on the hotline. Get your voice on the show. Call it up.
If you've got a contribution to the podcast, there's only one number you see. Go 1-800-438-353.
Radio Eat Your Veggies, she pops in from time to time in my Instagram DMs, and this week she said, "Hey mate, just wanted to say it was awesome hearing you on Hamish and Andy today. Great episode." And it's cool that I don't hear from people for years, and then they just pop in and I see chat history with them, and they've just kind of been there since the start, watching my stuff grow, and it is really awesome to see you guys kind of stick with me. Got this message as well, an email today that came out of the blue. This one was from Radio Cody Tachibana. Welcome to the radio family. He's contributed before. Again, sporadic contributor over the years, but not regular. And amazing surname. I think last time I said the same thing. It sounds like a Japanese surname, Tachibana. That's very Japanese sounding. Would be interested to know the heritage behind that name. He sent me an email today that I just got. I wanted to read it out as well. "Hey Mike, this may not be very significant since I'm just a random podcast listener, but as someone who enjoys your content, I'm proud of how far you've come." So far, that's really, really nice, Cody, and it is significant. Any message like that genuinely always makes my day. I saw this email pop up. The subject was, "I'm proud of you," and I was like, oh my God. Continuing. "I first heard of you on Luke and Lewis for Lunch ages ago when you were their panel operator, before you even got the radio mic name." That is a long time ago. "It's crazy to think that in a few short years, you're now working on TV shows and producing the Hamish and Andy podcast on top of all the other stuff you're doing. I don't know where you're going from here, but I'm sure whatever you put your mind to, you can succeed in. Keep your head up, man. I think you've earned it." And Cody, that message genuinely, it couldn't have come at a better time. I did say on the pod last week, I've been in a bit of a slump mentally. I'm coming out of it now and it's feeling awesome. But to get a message like that and knowing that there's people out there that are thinking this is so awesome for me. I genuinely could not imagine getting an email like that, and that just made my day. I guess the point of this is I'm realizing there's a lot of you out there that listen to the show, but I wouldn't know of, because you don't contribute, and that's fine. I've always said, I've said it before on this pod, I reckon when I was at uni and high school, I was the biggest fan in Australia of Hamish and Andy and their podcast and radio show. I never once contributed, never once sent an email, never once tried to get in touch with the show. Not once in my life, but I would say I was the biggest fan. Listened every night to the radio show, engaged with everything they did, never contributed. So I'm sure, it's becoming apparent to me, which is the point of this, that there are people out there who listen to the pod who have never contributed. Maybe they're fine with not contributing, and that's also fine. You do not have to contribute. But if you've ever thought, hey, I'd love to just write something into the show, anything, any topic you want me to talk about, any feedback you have, feel free to write in. The main reason I never contributed to Hamish and Andy was I just was anxious. I just thought they would think I'm a loser, so they wouldn't and I can tell you now, they wouldn't. And two, they get so many emails that it's it's 1 in 10 chance that they'll even get back to you. But for me, I get everything. If you've ever wanted to write in, do not let anxiety stop you. If it's just, I just want to listen to the podcast, I don't want to contribute, that's fine. But if you're like, I really want to contribute, but I don't know, please do. I encourage you to do so. Because that's kind of how I found this from Radio Nicole. Welcome to the radio family. Radio Nicole has never contributed to the show, but she tagged the TCB Pod Instagram, follow it at TCB Pod for exclusive pod content. And she said two of her favorite podcasts, 20th Century Boy, It's like hanging out with a friend. Radio Mike gives weekly insight into what's on his mind with regular commentary on pop culture. And Harry Potter and the Boys, my other podcast, stupidly funny, quite niche, a reading of Harry Potter fanfiction with commentary on the ridiculous writing. Thank you, Radio Nicole. Good to see that people who I don't know are listening. And of course, one final one came on at the contact form at radiomike.com.au. Radio Noah, welcome to the radio family, simply said, I love everything you do, which is amazing because I do heaps of shit stuff. So thank you, Radio Noah, for writing in. That, honestly, guys, just wanted to do a bit of a gratitude thing to you guys. You're all legends. Can't do this podcast if people don't listen. And the podcast is always growing. And I'm always dumbfounded to see people listening from episode 1. Because I cringe at episode 1. Which brings me into the next topic. Over the years, there's been a lot of discussion about my choir scholarship to my high school, and I'm going to clear it all up today, finally. Because I got this message during the week from Radio Frankie. Welcome to the radio family, Radio Frankie. And Frankie is a former choir chum. He was about 4 or 5 years younger than me when I was in the choir at school. He had a choir scholarship. He said, never could I have imagined Cathedral Choir getting a 15-minute segment on the Hamish and Andy podcast. Wonder what everyone would think about it. And it is amazing. So if you're a Hamish and Andy listener, you would have heard that they find it really funny that when I was at school, I had a choir scholarship. I went to St. Kevin's College in Melbourne. And, I'll long story short, came from like a pretty working middle class family. Guess we didn't have heaps of money, and private schools, something like Xavier College, which is like private Catholic school in Kew where I grew up, I think was like $20,000 a year to send your kids there. St. Kevin's at the time was a fair bit cheaper. It's not anymore, but at the time it was like $10,000 a year. Sorry, I think I said a month before, a year. $10,000 a year. And still a fair bit for us, but my parents really wanted me and my brother to get a good education, so they really wanted us to get in. And so we auditioned for this choir scholarship and got in, obviously. And I'll explain a bit more in detail, but I want to do a little bit of stuff around Hamish and Andy. So this is how it kind of all came up on the show a few weeks ago.
And it came from something that Podcast Mike told me here on the show. Mm. He sung a Green Day song and he's auditioned for a school choir.
Right. Wow,
from memory,
time of your life?
I think he went with American Idiot.
American Idiot?
What a
it's got to be...
Come in here, Podcast Mike.
God, if it's American Idiot.
How tough
on organ? Don't want to be an American idiot. Dum, dum, dum.
Now, I found this really funny. Hamish obviously goes to Time of Your Life, which is probably one of the biggest Green Day songs, the most recognizable, often sung in school events like graduations and etc. And quite a nice, slow Green Day song as opposed to their more general, upbeat, fast-paced punk music. American Idiot, of course, is one of those songs. But funnily enough, and this is how my brain works, because Hamish said, American Idiot on the organ? And this actually has been done before. My brain always just, my brain works in mysterious ways with pop culture. My brain automatically went to the Simpsons movie, right? I make links between everything, in which literally American Idiot is played on the organ in the funeral version of American Idiot, because at the start of the Simpsons movie, Green Day die, and there's a funeral in Springfield, and the organist at the church is playing American Idiot funeral version. And I just thought that was really funny that Hamish made a joke, and it kind of already does exist. Now, of course, it wasn't American Idiot that I sung to get into the senior vocal ensemble of St. Kevin's College in year 11 and 12. It was, in fact, Give Me Novocaine, a great B-side from the album American Idiot. Let's just have a listen to what happened on the show.
On the very first show, we had back this year, we had things we'd learned.
Yes.
And I'd learned that you sung Green Day in your audition.
At high school.
Give Me Novocaine.
Yeah, for a choral group.
Vocal ensemble.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did audition Give Me Novocaine. It was in, for people who went to St. Kevin's, it was in the, I think it was called the Cummins building. That's where I auditioned. I don't know what, what the 0.1% of people who know St. Kevin's, anyway, doesn't matter. Now, I did it on Instagram this week where I was in the car and I played Give Me Novocaine and sung on top of it so people could actually hear what that audition may have sounded like. I've done a proper version, like I've recorded a proper version on the mic I tried to put some pop music vocal filters on to make it sound as good as possible. I don't know if it actually sounds good, but here is my version of Give Me Novocaine, the first verse. It's probably about 30 seconds, guys. So this is an example of how it might have sounded when I auditioned for the senior vocal ensemble.
Take away the sensation inside. Bittersweet migraine in my head. It's like a throbbing toothache of the mind. I can't take this feeling anymore. Drain the pressure from the swelling. The sensation's overwhelming. Give me a kiss goodnight and everything will be alright. Tell me that I won't feel a thing. So give me Novocaine.
Now, do with that what you will. Couple things on that. I did also say on the Hamish and Andy pod that if I auditioned for The Voice today, I would sing the song Sunday Morning by Maroon 5, an absolute classic. Now, this week on The Overflow, which is up right now on Patreon, little as $1 a month, I will do my cover like that of Sunday Morning by Maroon 5. That'll be part of The Overflow this week. Get on it. I'll also be talking a bit more about some more behind the scenes stuff and stuff that went on when I filled in for Jack. So if you're into H&A and want to know a bit more about that, jump on The Overflow for $1. Jump on for a month. You'll get 4 bonus episodes, then jump off, jump back on whenever you want, right? It's totally worth it. As well as that, I'm going to explain how the scholarship worked because people don't seem to understand it. Here's a little bit from H&A.
Do you feel like the fact that you had a half scholarship for singing at school, it's part of your identity, isn't it?
I think so. It's a foundational part of my identity, yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been I don't think about it a lot. Just only on this show, really, do I think about it.
You don't wake up and go, you got this, each morning in the mirror. And you go, well, I mean, that paid for me. It was probably the first time, though, you could equate performing with financial reward.
Yeah.
And
then not a lot of 13-year-olds can do that.
And then every semester you get tested.
Yeah.
That shocked us, didn't it? That was on the first show where you were like...
Even through your pubescent era where your voice changed, you were still good enough to receive the half scholarship.
Yeah. I was told I had a really good gear shift, which is where you can change between the boy soprano voice to a...
Pre-pubic, post-pubic.
Yeah. They called it gear shift.
Sure. You can't say pubic too much around. I imagine as a high school teacher without it, beginning to feel like you should be finding another word.
Okay. So here's the full explanation of the scholarship, okay? As I said, needed it to get into the school, got in. My brother also had one. Longtime friend of the show, T-Money. If you are a long-term listener, you may remember T-Money, one of my good friends from school. He was also on a choir scholarship. That's how we met. And we used to carpool in together because we both lived near each other growing up. Here's what it was. So... because it was a Catholic school, super Catholic school, the biggest kind of Catholic cathedral in Melbourne is St. Patrick's Cathedral. It's in sort of East Melbourne near Parliament Station. You've definitely seen it if you're from Melbourne. And that's where like the Archbishop of Melbourne does Catholic Mass every weekend. I grew up in a very Catholic family. Like I'm not underestimating how Catholic my family was and how much the Catholic values I was raised on fucked me up. But anyway, that's a different podcast episode. Essentially, what happened was the St. Patrick's Cathedral and the Archdiocese of Melbourne, which is like the Catholic business of Melbourne, need choir boys to sing at the Mass every Sunday. So in order to make that happen, they organize scholarships with St. Kevin's. So basically you audition, they go, yep, you're in, and you essentially get, basically the Archdiocese pays for 50% of your school fees. So you can go, you have to be in the choir. That's the exchange. So Catholic Church needs choir boys every Sunday. They need a choir to perform and rehearse. So the exchange is, we'll pay you half of your school fees for your entire education if you stay in the choir. And when I started, there were 6 of us. By the time I was in year 12, there were only 3 of us left because people leave, people get kicked out because they're no longer good singers or they misbehave and whatnot. It's quite a tumultuous time. So what that involved was, when I was a boy, so they call them trebles, but it's really a boy soprano, which is where you sing, boys sing high. Essentially, you'd have to rehearse 3 times a week, Tuesday and Wednesday mornings for an hour before school, and then Friday afternoons for an hour and a half after school. So 3.5 hours of rehearsal during the week. Then on Sunday mornings, you'd get to the cathedral at 9 o'clock and you would rehearse until 11 a.m. Mass, and then you'd go and sing at the Mass every Sunday. And so you'd process in, you'd wear choir robes. Like, this was my life. I should post, maybe on the Patreon, I'll post a picture of me in my choir robes because it's pretty embarrassing. And the Mass, because it was long, because of the singing, it'd go till 12:15, 12:30. So an hour and a half Mass most of the time. Never listened, always fucking around. And at this point, I'm also growing up and developing abstract thinking, and my faith that I was raised on is dwindling rapidly, and I'm losing all interest in this. I'm starting to become interested in things like girls, and I also think in my mind, girls won't think it's cool that I'm a choir boy at the church. So there was a lot of especially at a sporty school, it wasn't very cool to be in the choir, which I look back on and I hate that I felt that way, because I never think you should make anyone feel shame or embarrassment about their own interests. But anyway, that's how it was. As your voice broke, every semester you get retested, and you basically have to sing chord. Like, they'll play a chord and you'll have to sing the 3 notes in the chord. You have to sight read music and do a bunch of other scales and exercises every semester. And then you find out in a letter to your parents whether your scholarship is being continued or discontinued. Pretty intimidating, to be honest. I stayed till year 12. So did my brother. So did T-Money. And then once your voice breaks and you stay in, you become a tenor or a bass, and you only have to rehearse on Thursday evenings after school. So at 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock every Thursday you'd rehearse, and then you sing at the Sunday masses. That was my life for 7 years. It feels like so long ago, but yeah, I guess because of the work I did in that choir, I got a pretty good education academically, and I think, I speak well and I write well. Anyway, I'm not here to critique the school, but that's basically what it was, because people don't seem to understand why there was a scholarship for singing, and it was because it was an exchange. Essentially, you got paid. It was like a gift card to St. Kevin's. Like, we'll give you a $5,000 gift card to St. Kevin's every year. Not like a gift card to like JB Hi-Fi or EB Games, which I'd love. It was like, here's a $5,000 gift card to St. Kevin's, and then your parents, they just pay the fees, so your parents don't have to pay it. So that's how I worked my way through a private elite Catholic boys' school. And yeah, it was really fun. Like, I'm obviously would never want to sing any of that music again, the Catholic music and stuff. But it was it was a decent experience. Like, it was fun. I made a lot of friends. It helped me explore like my musical side. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of work though, and a lot of effort, and a lot of early mornings and nights, and particularly on Easter, like during Easter, which is probably the busiest period for the Catholic Church, you'd have to sing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in a row for like hours and hours. And then Christmas, there was like 3 masses on Christmas Eve and then a mass the next morning on Christmas Day. So you'd work until Christmas Day. It was essentially a job. Like, I never had a part-time job during school because I just wouldn't have had time. And yeah, so I was basically, as Hamish said in that clip, I was being paid to sing. I was being paid to perform. And the only other time I've ever been paid as a performer, as some kind of performer, is for Hamish and Andy's Remembering Project, where I am employed on my contract as on-air talent and producer. So yeah, it is really interesting. If there's any more questions, I'd be happy to talk about it. Next week I might do an overflow talking about a bunch of crazy shit that happened in that choir, because a lot of crazy shit happened. Google it. But yeah, it was an interesting time. And I just wanted to clear a bit of that up. Because I brought it up on the first ever episode of this podcast, and then I was going to play a grab from it, but I was listening to it and I cringed so hard, and I never want anyone to hear that. And I honestly don't want anyone to ever listen to the first season of this podcast because it makes me cringe so much, which means that I've improved a lot. But yeah, I absolutely cringe. Anyway, of course, a lot of you must be thinking, what happened with the waterslide ambassador thing? So obviously, if you're a long-term listener, welcome back. If you're a new listener, welcome. Mikey D, friend of the show, welcome to the radio family.
Do you feel like the fact...
Sorry, I was trying to play this sound effect, but I played the wrong sound effect. Sorry, guys. We got to go to Adventure Park Geelong for free as waterslide ambassadors. Instead of featuring it on this episode, it was a great time. A bunch of people, Ruben Solo came, a bunch of people recognized Ruben, and then at the end of the day, a bunch of kids recognized me and were like, oh, I've listened to your podcast. I see your TikToks all the time. And I was like, what? And also caught it on tape, which is awesome. That was another thing where I was like, oh, wow, like people know this podcast. This is like a podcast that people listen to. There's going to be a bonus episode this week, just on the normal feed. It'll just be a bunch of voice recordings and moments and a package from the waterslide day, just so you guys get a vibe of it. It was a ton of fun. Such a fun thing to be a part of, and such a great ambassadorship. Speaking of ambassadorships, guys, get ready for this. Gear up for this one. Because, and I should say thanks to Mikey D for that. He organized a lot of it, and there was a lot of great content around that. And the water slides were actually really, really fun. It was really exhausting. I forgot how exhausting being at a theme park can be. That, like, because you're kind of screaming all day, exerting your energy. You're on your feet lining up, and then you're just screaming down the water slides and running around. And, you know, it's a lot of adrenaline and a lot of, like, pleasure rush. But then I crashed when I got home. I fell asleep like as soon as I got home from Geelong, which is like a 90-minute drive away from Melbourne. So it was a lot of fun. Listen to that bonus app. Mikey D will be making a bunch of content around it as well. So can't wait. And it was cool that Ruben came. Pat was there, and it was a really fun time. Grilled. Again, long-term listeners know I have an ongoing partnership with Grilled. And it was looking a little bit grim because Brooke, the social media manager at Grilled, quit her job. It is possibly the fault of this podcast because we were constantly hounding her for free Grilled, which she obliged with and gave to us. But she quit her job. She's no longer working at Grilled, and it's been months now with no social media manager at Grilled. If you message them, you get an automated response. But yesterday at 4:38 p.m, I get a message from the Grilled Burgers Instagram account, official account, blue tick and everything. And boy, oh boy, did it make me happy. Because this is what it said. Mike! 2 exclamation marks. So it's probably more like, Mike! Hello, it's me. Let me start by introducing myself. Huge. We've got someone. My name is Alex, and it's Alex as in, it's not Alex the normal Alex, it's Alex A-L-I-X, which is a creative way of spelling it. Wonder if it's short for anything. My name is Alex, and I am the new social media manager for Grilled. Well, Alex, welcome to the show. Looking forward to working with you. She or he, I'm actually not sure. Gonna lean on the side of she. But please correct me if I'm wrong. She says, I took myself on the journey of you and Grilled, and I, just like everyone else at Grilled, am obsessed with you. Do you guys hear that? Everyone at Grilled is obsessed with me, Radio Mike, the guy from this podcast that you're listening to right now. That's how much of an impact we have made on this burger chain. They are obsessed with us. They are obsessed with this content. They want more of it. And to prove it, here's what they go on to say. Here's what Alex says. I'm still finding my feet. However, I can say with complete confidence that we would love, in all caps with 5 E's, to continue this partnership. Well, I would also love it with 6 E's, Alex. I would love to partner with Grilled again. You know I do. So let's just do it. Let's stop talking about it. Let's partner. I'm so excited to see how our relationship will continue to blossom. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to see what else we can cook up in this kitchen this year. Great analogy because you're a burger chain. I'll tell you what you'll be cooking up in the kitchen. Burgers for me to eat. And the zucchini chips, which are amazing. Lots of love from your new Grilled bestie, Alex. Alex, I am so excited about this because, you know, there was talks for a little bit with Oporto. Oporto did come knocking on the door. Hello, who is it? It's Oporto. But they haven't said anything. They've gone quiet. Not going to lie, Grilled. I'm going to be honest with you. I do prefer the taste of Oporto to your food. But what I will say is actually last week, when we were recording Hamish and Andy, the whole team got grilled. And I had a really great time. I got the beef and bacon burger and it was delicious. Not exaggerating it because I'm an unofficial ambassador for you. It was delicious. Beef and bacon burger from Grilled with zucchini chips. Amazing. Chef's kiss. Do love Oporto. But if they're not wanting to play this game, if they're not willing to come on board the Mikey train and you guys are, then let's do it, Grilled. I'm so excited for the future of our relationship too. I wonder what's going to happen. I have just a couple more things before we wrap up. I'll read this out from Radio Christina with a K. Welcome to the radio family. Regular listener. Patrio Christina with a K, actually. Last week I talked about the Batman movie and how it's 3 hours long and that's an excessive amount of time for any movie to be. Looks like Quack agrees. Christina with a K. Just catching up on the podcasts, Mitch, her boyfriend, wanted me to go see the new Batman with him, but I honestly don't think I could sit through another 3-hour movie. Avengers Endgame was great, but the whole last hour, all I had to do was pee. Can't put myself through that again. True, I always get the urge to pee and I just am too embarrassed to go. But the best part about Pattinson being Batman is just the meme, since he is still playing a bat, just a lot less sparkly. That's true. He was a bat in Twilight and now he's playing a bat as well. Guys, there's something I just briefly have to talk about. And this podcast is the inside of my mind and it's the conversations you wish you were having, you want to be having. So I'm just going to talk about it because this is in the inside of my mind. I don't know if I've strayed into this territory before, but I've got to talk about this. It came up months ago when I watched the first episode of the TV show War of the Worlds, and then it came up a few nights ago when I watched this movie called Arrival, which is a science fiction movie about, and essentially what it's about is these aliens land on Earth in a spaceship, and this linguistics professor, she has to go, it's a great movie, she has to go into the aliens and try to communicate with them and learn their language. Right? Thankfully, the aliens are peaceful in this movie, but it got me thinking, and I just wanted to talk about this. Because, you know, as someone who understands the scope of the universe, there's this thing called the Fermi paradox in science, which I believe is the thing that I need to look it up because I'm going to butcher it, but it's to do with aliens, right? Sorry, guys. We're talking about aliens on the podcast. Fermi paradox, or it's the Fermi problem. No, Fermi paradox. So essentially, here's from Wikipedia. The Fermi paradox is the conflict between the lack of clear, obvious evidence for extraterrestrial life and various high estimates for their existence. So basically it's saying, why are there no signs of aliens when it's highly probable there is like intelligent life? I'm going to butcher it. There's highly probable there's intelligent life out there, but why have we never been contacted? That seems to mean that we are alone in this time. Anyway, I was just thinking about this and I was like, and I promise I'm completely sober right now and I haven't smoked any marijuana in case anyone's interested. Because, you know, I believe in the scope of the universe and I genuinely do think that out there in the universe there is intelligent life somewhere. So far away, maybe they're on a similar development technologically as us. Maybe they function, like who knows, right? But I do believe there is life out there. I just think the universe is way too broad and way too big for us to just be an accident in time. I think there's other accidents in time elsewhere in this universe. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I do think there is extraterrestrial life out there that is as intelligent, can be as intelligent, or is more intelligent than us humans. I don't think we're alone in the universe. And I was just like, if an alien species did come to Earth, like what happens in the movie Arrival or War of the World, if tomorrow, just say tomorrow, I mean, it could happen. If tomorrow a spaceship lands in, let's say, in Federation Square in Melbourne, and a bunch of aliens come out and they're like, we need more space for our species to survive, so we are going to take over this planet, right? Which, I mean, in a terrible way, is pretty much what British colonialists did on Earth throughout all of history, particularly in Australia, where they were just like, we're exploring, here's some land we can use. There's people here, let's just take over this land and conquer it. What would stop an alien species doing the exact same thing here? And if they've made it to Earth, they're clearly more technologically advanced than us. We'd be totally, it'd be futile to fight. Like, it is it's not highly possible, but it is, like, what if that happened tomorrow? Aliens just came down like, hey, we're taking over the world. We're going to enslave you. And if you try to resist us, we're just going to kill you. We need this space. We need this planet. So, you know, we're going to enslave you. You can stay alive, but we're enslaving you. You belong to us, etc. Terrible, terrible thing to happen. But by looking at what life has been and what people have done and living creatures have done, our whole intelligent living creatures have done, you know, historically, then that probably would happen. And, you know, what would the governments do? What would people do? Because in the movie Arrival, like, people start looting. The Chinese government wants to declare war on the aliens and says they're going to obliterate them, but other governments want to, like, work with it and stuff like that. So I think it's really, really every time I think about it, I'm like, if that happened tomorrow, we are totally ill-equipped to handle it. As a society, as a planet, we just do not have the capabilities to fight off alien species who want to kill us. It would just happen, and we just couldn't do anything about it. And I don't know if this is going to become like an irrational fear of mine, but like, it is, I mean, it's not probable, but it is possible that in our lifetimes, aliens, extraterrestrial life is found. And what happens then? Because it's just like, do people start, like, if aliens come to this planet, like, we can't just pretend they don't exist. We can't just kill them. It's just like, okay, now this is a thing. Now we, a planet, have to learn to live with, even if they're peaceful, it's like, now we have to learn to live with this alien species. Can people marry aliens? It's actually so weird to think about it, because it would just add a completely new layer to our existence and our lives as we know it that we've never even had to think of. Anyway, that just came to my mind. I think, how long have we been going for? Okay, so that was just a little rave at the end. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. What would happen in an alien invasion? What are some good sci-fi movies around it as well? Because Arrival I really enjoyed. If there's other movies like that, where it's more, because I watched Alien, the classic sci-fi horror Alien, and it's like where an alien gets onto a spaceship and kind of attacks the crew, and that's like, I get that, but I think what I found so interesting about Arrival was it was more about like, if aliens came to Earth, how would we communicate with them? How would we figure out what they want? Because there's no way they'd understand English. There's just no way that they could possibly understand our language, and we couldn't understand them. They might have a totally different way of communicating, like in Arrival. And what would we do? Like, I think it's more the political and government kind of practical aspects rather than just the horror of aliens killing humans. I think it's that. So if there's any movie recommendations in that, let me know. Okay, I think I'll wrap it there for today. So just before we end, let's do this.
The plug.
A few things happening this week. Go and listen to episode 163 of the Hamish and Andy podcast where I filled in for Jack. Had a great time. There's a few other things involving me on the pod. That was really awesome. Really grateful to the guys. And of course, a bit more over on Patreon, patreon.com/Radio Mike, $1 a month. Get the overflow. I'm going to talk a bit about the process of recording H&A on there, as well as my Sunday morning cover, as well as that new Harry Potter and the Boys episode with the guys from 1001 Songs That Make You Want to Die. I've guested on their podcast a few times, so they finally guested on mine. Here is a great tease of that.
And actually, my girlfriend at the time, who was now my wife, gave me so much shit for reading the Harry Potter books. Like, so much. Just like, they're for like little kids. You're a loser. I hate you and your personality.
I'll never marry you. We won't have kids.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Hear it to this day.
That was a great, funny episode, an incredible chapter. So much fucked shit happens in that chapter. So definitely go and listen to Harry Potter and the Boys, my Harry Potter fan fiction podcast. As well as that, again, I plug it all the time, but the YouTube channel, these go up as full videos up on the YouTube channel. And additionally, you can, there's a Radio Mike podcast clips. Type that into YouTube. There's just short clips from the pod. You can put them on as a playlist and listen to all of them. Video, little 5 to 15 minute clips. So I'd love for you to subscribe there as well. Guys, I think that's pretty much it for this week. Thank you so much again. Really enjoyed this episode. My name's been Radio Mike. This podcast has been The Inside of My Mind. It's really hot in this room, so I'm not going to finish all the other ones that I usually do. Don't block the MDF, I guess. See you next week. Can't wait to speak to you then. Patreon.com/Radio Mike. Shameless plug. Good night and good morning if you're listening to this as soon as you wake up, which is weird. See you guys, I'm rambling.